Yeah, hello everyone. In this session, I would like to talk about control statements in C language. I expect the students would have already gone through the sessions on data types and operators, and I hope they could able to write small programs using data types and operators. So now the one of the important concept in C language we are going to witness in this session, that is control statements. In fact, what are these control statements? So if I say statement, it could also refer to, in the programming terminology, you can also say it as instruction. When it is a instruction, instructions are normally given to machines or computer, am I right? So I can say control instructions. You can say control instructions. So mostly when somebody asks you to define what is C program, so definition of program, how do you define? In fact, you say program is a set of instructions. You will be writing set of instructions. Am I right? You say set of instructions. So let us know what are the different types of instructions that you can write inside the program. In fact, these control statements are going to control the execution flow of the program. So let us see. So prior to that, I would like to talk to you about the syllabus that we are going to finish. In fact, in the previous lectures, we have covered Unit 1, that's C programming prescribed by the JNTH Hyderabad. So in the Unit 1, we have already covered Introduction to Computers, and history of programming languages and history of C, and we come to know how to edit, compile and execute C program in different environments. And in the previous sessions, so I was talking about the data types and operators. I wish you have gone through these concepts, these tutorials, and now I conclude that Unit 1 is completed, and I am just switching over to Unit 2 as for the JNTH syllabus for the C programming is consider. Okay, fine. So in Unit 2, so we come across the control statements. So Unit 2, you can see, is categorized into three essential elements. One is control statements, other one is functions, and the third one is storage classes. Okay, I said control statements are control instructions. They are used to control. These are used to control flow of execution of the program. Control the flow of execution inside the program. However, later on we are going to cover the concept of functions. So if you could able to go through the Unit 2, and if you can able to understand the concepts of Unit 2, I wish the students could able to write the C programming. 90% is 90% of the solutions for various problems you come across in the real world scenarios, you could able to understand. So I can say altogether you have got 90% C concepts to implement solutions to the C programs. So I request the students to attend these sessions related to Unit 2 concepts. In fact, control instructions, functions and storage classes without missing any class. Then I promise you that end of this Unit 2, you could able to write n number of programs on your own. Right. So let us look at simply what are these control statements. You can see, yeah, the control statements in C language, you can see on screen, are categorized into, so in fact, four types. I can add one other statement. We call it as sequence control instructions. In fact, sequence control instructions, control statements. So it is not specified in the chart because By default, whatever the programs we have been writing, in fact, if I say into main, so addition of two numbers, programs and operators, all these, if you see these instructions here, we say they are sequence control instructions. What does it mean? Means that you are going to, for example, I have 6 instructions here. The 6 instructions are going to executed one after another in the order in which they are written. If I could able to give the indexing for this instruction, say 1 to 6. So once instruction 1 is executed, the control goes to instruction 2 and so on. 1 to 6 gets executed. That's those kind of instructions we call them as sequence control instructions. Whatever the basic programs we have been doing from the couple of days, all are actually sequence control instructions. Means all are executed one after another without skipping any instruction. But for the rest of the control statements, it is different. So we have decision control statements. You can see on screen. Let me take another color. So decision control statements. So before we execute the instructions, we are going to check the condition first. If condition is true, we are going to execute some set of instructions. Otherwise, we are going to skip some set of instructions. Means if I have written say instructions from 1 to 10 in my program, imagine probably I may not execute all the instructions written in the program. Based on the condition, I may execute some set of instructions. Out of 10, maybe 5 instructions gets executed, 5 may not get executed. Fine. So that's what the decision control statements. And other way, we have loop control statements. For example, based on the condition, we are going to execute some statements, but I want to execute set of statements. Say I have written 1 to 10 instructions, but among this 1 to 10, I want to execute instructions 5 to 10 multiple times. Multiple times. Then we go with this loop control statements. So C language supports different loop control statements which are there on screen, you can see. Right? So if you want to execute multiple times some set of instructions, we go with loop control instructions. Okay. The other one is we have case control statements. In fact, the switch, we say that choice based execution. So user will be writing say choice based execution. What does it mean? Means if there are instructions say 1 to 100, you can split them into 10 modules. Say 10 modules. Each module, imagine say 10 modules. Each module has 10 instructions. So you are based on the user choice, you are going to execute specified module. Maybe you may execute module 2 or module 4. So based on the choice given by the user, you are going to execute some set of instructions. Now let us see the decision control statements. So we have simple if. So using if keyword, we are going to implement this. If else means if condition is true, you do one thing, otherwise we do another thing. So that's, we call it as else block. And you can write this if and else inside the if or else, we call it as nested if. And if you want to execute more set of instructions based on different conditions, so you are going to implement else if ladder. So we will see one after another. And if you want to execute a set of instructions multiple times, the most commonly used loop is for loop. But initially we will look at the what is while loop, and later we go with do while loop. But however, so I want you to understand whatever the programs that you can write with one loop can be replaced with any other loop, in fact. Okay. So let us see how these instructions can be executed. Look at the flow chart here. You can see I said sequential control instructions. I can say these are sequential control instructions. So what happens? I have three statements here. 3 instructions are going to executed one after another. So I am not going to skip. So the execution flow is sequential, means the statements are going to executed one after another in which order they have written. Fine, that's what sequential. So we are comfortable in writing sequential instructions. Now let me introduce the conditional or selection based. We also call it as selection based execution. So what happens is you will test a condition here. For example, see if a greater than b, if condition is true, we say that a is big, right? A is big. This code is executed. Else we say that b is big. Means if you run this program, only one code gets executed, either if code or else code. Means either this a is big will be printed or b is big will be printed. Both will never get executed, though you are writing both possible cases inside the program. So if a greater than b, you will be writing printf a is big, else printf b is big, though you have written both the statements, but only one statement gets executed based on the condition. So this is called selection or conditional based statements. These can be implemented using if keyword in C language. But if condition is true, how many times you are going to execute this code? The conditional code is going to be executed only one time. Fine. But there is a requirement for me. I want to execute this conditional code n times. Then you have to go with the concept called as looping or loop. These are also called as loop control statements. Control statements, or you can also call as repetitive control statements. Repetitive control statements. You can see if condition is true, what is happening? So let me test the condition. Say if I less than n. If condition is true, initially imagine that I is equal to 1, n is equal to 10. So what happens? You go here and execute the conditional code, whatever you want to do. For example, you may print say some I, print I. So then what happens? Again, after printing this conditional code or executing this conditional code, again you go back to the conditional code, but meanwhile you will update the variables. So what is happening? So here the circle, you can see a circle is been established here. This concept we call it as looping or loop. So I am going to execute this conditional code till the I less than n is true. Whenever I exceeds, if I becomes equal to or greater than or equal to n, then I will come out of this loop. Am I right? So these are the representation of the different control statements in the form of flowcharts. Now let us see programming syntax of these. I said earlier, you can see that. So selection or we can say decision or selection based statements, you can see on screen. So we are going to execute the set of instructions based on the condition. So how do you write in the programming? So I want to write the syntax of these statements. If let me write condition, if condition is true, so we are going to execute the set of statements. So if it is not true, we will execute normal statements. We say return 0, end of the main. Fine. So let me take other color. Fine. Means if condition is true, we will do this. Otherwise, so normally we will execute the sequential instructions outside the if block. If condition is false, what to do? We are not bothering about right now. For example, if it is if else, so we will also if condition, say if condition is true, you execute this set of statements. If condition is false, we also give what to do. You execute this set of statements. So I can say this is block 1 b1, and I can say this is block 2 b2. Condition is true, b1 gets executed. If condition is false, b2 gets executed. Sometimes you want to execute or test a series of conditions, like then in such case we go with else if ladder. So this can be implemented like this: if You write condition and say if condition is still not true, so what we will do is we will test another condition, else if we say again condition. Fine. So you want to test the multiple conditions. In fact, this can happen. What kind of grade obtained by the student based on percentage of marks? If percentage of marks is more than 90, you can say student has got the grade A. And if percentage of marks greater than 80 and between 90, you can say student has got the grade B. So on, you can test multiple conditions. You can write number of else if conditions. But if all the conditions fails, for example, if this fails and the rest of the else if also fails, then worst case we are going to write the else part. In the worst case, if student not qualifies any of the test conditions, worst case what we say, the student is failed, that kind of message we can print. So if all the conditions are false, then only this particular block of statements gets executed. Fine. Nested if simply, so you if condition is true, again you want to test the another condition, means you want to test one condition inside the other condition. It could be like if a greater than b is true, then you may want to test whether a greater than c is true or not. So you can say this is condition 2. Fine. Like you can write else part for this one, or you can incorporate this if else inside the if, or you can do the same, even you can do the same inside the else also. This can be done even in the inside the else. If you write else here, you can do that. So even you can incorporate simple if inside the if also. By looking at this general syntax of this selection or decision control statements, I want you to understand one thing. You can see if statement can exist on its own. If can exist on its own, but else will not exist without, but else, let me write, but else will not exist, imagine, exist without if. So we will see again these statements one after another with example programs in the next class. For simple if we do one session, for if else we do one session, for else if ladder we will do one session, and we try to implement live programs for these all statements uh, uh, in live session. Okay, fine. So what about the switch? So I said it is choice based execution. I said choice based. When you have multiple blocks of statements, you want to execute only one block of statement, that too based on the choice, not based on the test condition. If it is else if, so among the multiple blocks you are going to execute one block based on test condition. But here you are going to execute based on the user choice. That's it. You are not going to test any condition if based on the choice. So how do you supply this choice? So programming syntax, the choice is, let it be scanned as ch. So we say this is the switch structure. Inside the switch you will be selecting only one block of statement. We say that is case 1, and you do one thing, something, and break it. So on, you can write, say, case n, this is colon, so rest are semicolons, case n. So you can execute some statements and break. Worst case, if user choice is not matching with any case being written in the switch, so then we will be writing a default case. So if no case is matched with the user choice, this may happen sometimes if user is not aware of what exactly is doing and how many cases are present inside the switch. So if he gives the invalid value, or means the value which not matching the cases written inside the switch, then a default will be executed. Normally in the default we write the simply a statement saying that it will be educating the user. Dear user, the choice you have entered is invalid, means no case is written with this number. So can you please can you relook into the case that you have supplied here? So that kind of message we can write it. So this is about the selection decision control statements. And when it comes to the loops, I said earlier, so loops can be categorized into two types. You can see on screen. We say entry controlled and exit controlled. Entry controlled means test condition is executed first. Test condition is executed first. Executed first. In the exit controlled, the block of statements are executed first. Means are executed first. We will see all these one after another with a series of examples, and I want to do live sessions where we will solve n number of problems. Okay. So but in this session I want to introduce you about the different control instructions in this session. That's it. And if I want to go for the general syntax, how do you write them in the programming languages? So this for loop can be written as, say, for you can initialize, we say initialization, semicolon. So we will write the test condition, semicolon, and update the test condition. Update the test condition. That's it. Okay, this is the general syntax. We will see what happens after initialization and everything else when we come across all these in the coming classes. And if it is while, simply the syntax of while could be, we will write the test condition, and if test condition is true, we will execute the statements. In fact, we write updation of variables participating in the test condition. Am I right? Test condition, let me close it. Fine. Even before the test condition, if I write simply I less than n, but make sure that whether I value and n value are available prior to this test condition. So that is the reason why we say that before the test condition in the while loop, we say initialization must be done. Initialization of variables which are participating in the test condition. And of course, when it comes to the do while, I said earlier, so do simply execute the set of statements, and then it will end of the block after executing these instructions one time, means at least one time gets executed the instructions, at least one time, at least one time. So then we will test the condition actually. So we will see why this is what is the difference between the while and do while loop, all this stuff in the coming sessions. Apart from this, I would like to tell you we have also one more statements or instructions called as conditional jump statements. So that also we are going to, those are also will be covered in the coming sessions. So unconditional jump statements. So here unconditional jump statements means without testing any condition, without testing any condition, these can transfer the flow of execution of the program from one place to another place to another place. Means they won't test any condition. If they are encountered, means the control flow of execution is shifted from there to somewhere else. That happens. So we have four. break, continue, go to, and return. So we know, in fact, we have been writing in simple C programs, and end of the program we say return 0. We will discuss it why it is return 0. And break is normally used to break the loop. So it will be written in the loops whenever it is encountered. So without testing the condition again, okay, the control will be transferred from the place where the break is appeared to the out of the loop. And in fact, the continue will work in a reverse way. So if continue is encountered, it transfers the control from the place where it is encountered to the beginning of the loop. Break will transfer the control to outside of the loop. Continue will transfer the control to the beginning of the loop. We will see these with examples in the coming session. And go to, yeah, go to is used to transfer the control to a specified place in the program, specified to a specified instruction, I can say, because in the program we will be writing the instructions. Am I right? Fine. So we will see these all the statements one after another with syntax and also with live examples in the coming tutorial. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you.